All right, now I'm here to talk about how my cooperating teacher, Mr. Trent, generally runs his classroom. For the most part, I would say 95% of the time, his classroom is run in a lecture format with little to no student involvement. I guess Mr. Trent really has a old school approach to teaching where it's lecture, 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 check for understanding a little bit, relate some of the information to the students, so they can, I guess, connect with it and get done what we need to get done and make sure they're prepared for the upcoming test. The lesson objectives obviously make sure the students understand the essential concepts and, I guess, information that is going to be presented in the lecture. They aren't presented clearly for the students. The lectures, the PowerPoint lectures, they're all information based. It's not they are creative, but it's not what you would deem as a very student friendly approach to the learning process. But in order to reach these objectives, like I said, it's lecture, lecture, lecture 95% of the time. Sometimes they'll show a video here and there, but other than that, there's no real group work activity, no, I guess, experiential exercises, limited use of the internet because nowadays all kids want to do is get on Facebook. So I can understand that, but it's very, very stringent in the way it is presented to the students. And that's not to say that he's just talking at the students because he does. He gets them involved, asks questions, has students answer, the questions that he asks. But it's not what I would call student centered instruction. Um, the students, I've been told they don't really like the way he teaches. They usually describe him as a little loud and overbearing. But, I mean, that's just the way Mr. Trent is, and that's the way he teaches, and, he's been successful with it. He says that he's never once, as bad as this sounds, never once had, bad scores or, not proficient scores for his SOLs, if we're going to give a really crappy, I guess, gauge of how good of a teacher he is. But, I like the way he approaches the students. It's a mutual respect kind of thing, but this guy is more of a football coach and then a teacher, as opposed to a teacher and then a coach. The students do take notes during the lectures. They are presented in, I guess you call it worksheet form. The worksheets follow along with the PowerPoint, and they have blanks where important information needs to be filled in. And once the PowerPoint comes up, all the students start writing. And then they stop writing and listen while Mr. Trent is talking. I mean, he's talking the whole time as they're writing as well. But I kind of get the sense sometimes that once they get the stuff down on the worksheet, some of the students just kind of tune out, which probably isn't the best thing. I guess I would describe the learning experience as successful for some. Some people like that type of lecture format, whereas others get are easily bored by it and don't pay attention after they've gotten the notes down, like I was just talking about. So, is it successful for all the students as a whole? I would say absolutely not. But there are, I don't know, a handful of kids in each class that it really, really works for, and it's those kids that are self-motivated, are always hardworking, and in all honesty, that is not the majority of students today. And I guess the evidence to prove that it was successful, test scores. The last test we just had, I probably, if I had to guess, the average was probably about a 70 across all classes, which for a regular history class, for a pretty simple test, is awful. Yeah, to be truthful about it. And like I said, it's because the teaching method is only successful for a small percentage of the kids, where other kids don't care, or they tune out, or they've got better things to do, other classes to study for, and they don't see history as a priority, which, as a teacher I would like to change, but that isn't necessarily the way Mr. Trent gets things done. I guess if it resembled anything that we talk about in class, it's probably the opposite, the exact opposite of what you want your classroom to be set up as. I mean, like I said earlier, I like it, but it's because when I teach it, I don't know. This is just, I guess, me critiquing, or not necessarily critiquing, but maybe tooting my own horn. But I feel like I involve the students more and try to relate to them more than Mr. Trent does, which is why they seem to like when I teach more. But yeah, these lessons are not student centered. It's all, a lot of it's talk at the students. No real check for learning after each class, or no exit slips or anything. The only real check for learning, or check for memory retention that there is the test at the end of the unit, and that's really not the most efficient way to do things. Not necessarily efficient, but most beneficial way for the students. It's not that way, for lack of better words. But there are some good things that he does. Like I said, he doesn't completely neglect the students, and he does explain things in ways that they'll understand. But overall, I don't really agree with the whole classroom process that Mr. Trent goes with. But it's a good thing to learn from. I guess I can adjust my teaching process and my classroom environment when I get my own classroom next semester, and not necessarily not use some of the things I've taught that I've learned from Mr. Trent, but not use his exact blueprint for teaching. So, I guess until next time, talk to you all later.